defense, you have no evidence.
Welcome back to the Now Morning Show. It's time for an update on the Constitutional Reform Townhall meetings that have been taking place. And joining us for this conversation is Barendra Sinanan, SC, Chairman of the National Advisory Committee on Constitutional Reform. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning.
How are you this morning?
Very well indeed.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us. So let's get straight into the conversation. How successful have the efforts been in obtaining recommendations from the widest possible cross-section of citizens?
It has actually been very successful. We've had over 800, perhaps by now, maybe 950 written submissions, over 4,000 responses to our questionnaire, and we've been having town hall meetings, the last of which was in Tobago on Monday. So we're doing pretty well. Whilst the town hall meetings are not always overcrowded, we've had good attendances. And more importantly, we've had good interaction with the attendees at these meetings. Some very good ideas have been coming out from these attendees, all of which seem to be pointing to some form of similarity in what persons are raising.
And when you say similarities in what some persons are raising, would you be able to share with us what some of those similarities are?
Yes. People are concerned about, for example, the slow pace of justice, the service commissions. People talk about limiting terms of the Prime Minister, specific dates for elections, service commissions, as I said before, in terms of their effectiveness and timeliness of delivery. They're talking about the presidency. The CCJ is very topical. So a host of issues are being raised, all of which are in the Constitution and affect people in their daily lives.
It's good to hear that we're getting such a response so far. As you would have mentioned, of course, with the town hall meetings, even not just in Trinidad, of course, but in Tobago as well. One of the things you did mention, of course, is that it's not overcrowded, but you have that depth of attendance, which we need to see happening. Now, I just want to go away from the town hall meetings for a moment and get into the quality of the submissions that are being received. What would you say is the quality of them you've received thus far?
Excellent quality. We've had submissions not only from the wider public, we are also meeting with what we call and legal experts who are giving us the benefit of their knowledge. And that has been very instrumental will be very instrumental in shaping our ultimate terms of reference and working paper.
Now, something also that will be instrumental in shaping this would be the input of the youth. If I'm not mistaken, one of the things that is being focused on now are the youth submissions itself. So far, have the youth been engaged?
Yes. Don't forget, since February, we've invited the widest public to contribute. But specifically, we are going to meet with the Trinidad and Tobago Youth Council. We are planning 3 meetings, one in Port of Spain, one in San Fernando, and one in Tobago. These meetings, more than likely, will happen during the first and second week in May. So we are now putting things in place to arrange that.
Looking forward to seeing what the outcome of that will be. Let's go to the terms of reference of the NACCR, which strictly relate to data collection and not to rewriting the Constitution. Can you expound on that?
Yes. So we are not rewriting any Constitution. What we're doing, or what we've been mandated to do, is to gather the views of the widest in order to have reference for a national consultation.
Okay, wonderful. One of the things you also mentioned was that we do have some youth consultations coming up, but will there be some other town hall meetings coming up that we need to pay attention to?
Yes, tomorrow we are in Chaguanas. Then we have in Pinal de Besiparia, Cuvatal Paru. We have Tunapuna, and I think one more. So we're hoping to complete all the town halls by the second week in May.
Now,
So between now and the second week in May, we have a busy schedule to fitting all these town halls and complete our meetings with experts.
in addition
For example, today we are having Justice Anthony Lucky, who is going to address us on the law of the sea in relation to Tobago. So we await his contribution.
Now, that's quite interesting. So let's go to that. You said the law of the sea. So are there other areas that are going to be covered? Because automatically when one hears about constitutional reform, they automatically think about our submissions, what you think, as you would have mentioned, of course, like the Service Commission and so much more. What else is going to be touched on?
Well, as I said, the Constitution is the living document, the law of the land. Every aspect of the Constitution will be touched on. And this is why we are asking people to contribute. And anything that affects them in the Constitution, we need to hear from them. One of the challenges we face is that people are not aware what is in the Constitution. So one of the recommendations coming out of these discussions is that the Constitution should be taught in schools. In years gone by, there was civics taught at primary school. But what is coming out of meetings is that it should again be introduced, the Constitution should be introduced in the school system. I even suggested that it go as far as being a CXE subject in the exams.
That's an interesting proposal, especially going to CXE. But one thing for sure we know, if something like that is instituted, it's definitely going to raise a generation who understand the Constitution, which is critical to just being a citizen and understanding daily life and knowing where you stand. Now, something also that you would have mentioned is that youth groups, of course, are involved in this. You have those consultations coming up. But what about other interest groups? Have they been involved in this process?
Yes, other interest groups have been invited. All interest groups have been invited. Some of whom have submitted, and some of whom are yet to submit. And through your medium, I'm appealing to those groups that have not contributed in written submissions to do so now, because we do have a very short window to compose and craft our terms of reference. So I'm appealing to all to submit their recommendations. We've had the chief. Sorry, go ahead.
By all means, continue.
So, for example, like business groups, the chambers of commerce have been invited, the Rotary clubs, all civic groups have been invited to participate and to submit proposals.
What is the deadline for submission for their proposals?
Well, the deadline of submissions have actually passed. It was the 14th of this month. But we will still receive submissions, but we can't go too late. So if people are in the course of preparing the submissions, we'll certainly receive it. We wouldn't disregard it. But at some point, perhaps towards the end of this month, there will be a cutoff point where we wouldn't be able to receive any more. Or even if we do, we'll have to, look carefully at how we deal with those.
Understood. Thank you so much for joining us. Before we wrap, do you have any closing comments for Trinidad and Tobago, Mr. Sinanan?
Yes, the Constitution affects every single citizen, and we are appealing to citizens to participate. The citizens can change the Constitution, and it is the citizens who would determine whether this Constitution is changed or not. So I'm appealing to every single citizen, individual groups, to really insist on change if they feel the desire to change, have the Constitution change.
Thank you so much for that. Enjoy the rest of your day and all the best.
You too, and thank you very much for having me.